Good evening, Brother Lineman. Welcome back to the Lineman Life. Today's episode is part 2 of What Do I Need to Climb a Pole? Part 1 was about climbers. If you missed that episode, please click on the link above, check that episode out first, and then come back to watch this second episode, which is on pole climbing fall protection. So what is wood pole fall protection? Before 2015, when we used to climb poles, we used to do what was called free climbing. Now, free climbing is where you have a safety or you have a skid that goes around the pole, but you actually climb the pole before you actually put the strap around the pole. So if there are any obstacles to go over, like cross arms, communications cables, anything like that, you don't actually put your strap around the pole till you're above all that stuff. But back in 2015, OSHA came out with a new law, and this new law requires anybody who's subject to a fall of more than 4 feet is required to have some kind of fall protection. So that includes linemen. So back in 2015, the industry was changed from what it had been for decades before. So manufacturers of these climbing equipment came up with different methods to protect you from falling off of a wood pole while you were climbing it. The reason that's important is you have to be strapped to the pole now when you climb, so you can't fall. And what happens with that is when you come to an obstacle on the pole, which all poles have, you've got to have some way to go around that obstacle and still have 100% fall protection. So the method now for climbing wood poles is you have your wood pole fall protection equipment, and you have a secondary lanyard. And this secondary lanyard is used when you have to cross any kind of obstacle because you're completely belted into the pole now. So when you come to an obstacle, you're going to have to remove that belt to get above the obstacle. So you have a secondary lanyard. So what you do is you take your secondary lanyard that goes above the obstacle, you disconnect your wood pole fall protection, put it above the obstacle, and then remove your secondary lanyard, and that gets you above the obstacle with 100% fall protection, where if something happens, you're not going to fall off of that pole. This is not a training video. I'm just trying to show you what's out there. There's an endless debate on wood pole fall protection and what manufacturer has the best piece of equipment. You know, I do understand there's a difference of opinion because this fall protection stuff is very expensive. And if you have thousands of dollars invested in your equipment, you're going to tend to defend and stick with the equipment or the manufacturer that you use. I'm not promoting any company. I'm just trying to show you what's out there so you can make an educated decision on what you would like to buy. I've got 3 different fall protection systems. I've got one from Jelco, got one from Buckingham, and I've got one from Bashlin. These are going to be my opinions of how this equipment operates. Now, another piece of this puzzle is the actual climbing belt that you use itself. Back before 2015, everybody had 2 D-ring body belts. There was no need for anything other than that. But now we talked about how we have to use the secondary lanyard to go around obstacles. So what that entails is now if you have a 2 D-ring body belt, you could possibly have 4 snap hooks in the same D-ring. And what that does is when you're actually climbing and you're having to unclip and clip these devices in, it can get pretty jammed up and it could get a little bit confusing. So what the manufacturers came out with was the 4 D-ring body belt. The 4 D-ring body belt is, to me, much easier to use because you have your secondary lanyard on one set of D-rings and you have your wood pole fall protection on the other set of D-rings, which makes it very easy to clip and unclip what you need to as you're climbing. All these wood pole fall protection devices have certain things in common. Number 1, they have to keep you from falling if you happen to cut out while you're climbing. Number 2, they have to be adjustable as far as how large the pole is. You know, poles are tapered. At the bottom, the pole is much bigger, and as you climb, the pole gets smaller. These devices must allow you to adjust to the size of the pole as you're climbing. Number 3, they have to be adjustable as far as how far you are away from the pole. You might have to lean out extra long, so you want to be able to, have an adjustment where you can stretch out a little bit, or you might need to be closer to the pole. And all these devices have to be adjustable to allow your body to be either closer or further away from the pole. Number 4, they have to be able to be easily disconnected to allow you to use your secondary lanyard and climb over an obstacle. And number 5, they have to make it where it's easy to climb the pole without actually getting caught up on the pole or hung up on the pole as you climb. So I've got 3 different manufacturers here. I've got the Jelco Pole Choker 5, that's the model. I've got the Buckingham Super Squeeze, and I've got the Bashlin Patriot. So let's go over each one. So let's talk about the Jelco Pole Choker 5. So the actual fall protection piece of the Jelco is what they call the PC roller and the sliding D-ring. And the way you adjust this belt is you actually have a clip that clips into what they call the sliding D-ring. That strap goes up against the pole. The PC roller has to be touching the pole. The recommendation is it needs to be at least, if you're looking at the pole and cut it into cross sections, you've got to have at least 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock for the fall protection piece of this device to work. So really you need this PC roller's got to be touching wood. If it's touching wood, if you cut out, it's gonna catch you and prevent you from falling. Now in the middle, there's a little handle that's on the web strap itself. That's the piece that you use to adjust yourself closer to the pole to work or further away from the pole to work. You also adjust to the pole size you can actually grab the strap and pull on it, and it slides through the PC roller, and that's what makes the adjustment as far as pole size goes. Now, climbing and descending. So the manufacturer on this Jelco Pole Choker recommends that you take your hand, and as seen here, you actually grab some of the strap and you pull it away from the pole and you hold it with your hand while you're climbing. And so what this does is it kind of releases the tension off of being wrapped around the pole and makes it easier where you can actually slide the belt up as you're climbing up the pole. And actually it's very simple to I practiced a little bit with it. You hold this with your hand, the belt moves very freely, and it's very simple to climb a pole with. Now the next piece comes into play when you have to go over an obstacle and have to disconnect the pole fall protection itself. This ejector snap that I'm showing here, that ejector snap is disconnected, and it can be disconnected under tension. So what you do is when you get to the obstacle, you use your secondary lanyard to go above the object, and then you can release your this ejector snap. You can release it off the sliding D-ring. You can put a little parking stand they actually have on the belt to secure it. You remove your belt, you go above the obstacle, you hook your belt back up, you take the ejector snap off of the little parking stand, and you clip it back into the sliding D-ring. One good thing about this Jelco Pole Choker is, so if you're actually above an obstacle like a cross arm, a piece of hardware, transformer, and you can't fall more than 2 feet, you can actually leave this ejector snap parked onto the side of the belt, and it will allow you to use this belt just like one of our old lineman safeties, which makes it very easy to rotate it on the pole and do what you need to do without getting this wood pole fall protection hung up on the pole. It's a good design. Takes a little getting used to, but I actually like it. So let's move on to the Buckingham Super Squeeze. The fall protection piece of the Buckingham Super Squeeze is what the manufacturer calls the roto snap, and it's also got a little steel nub on the other side of the strap itself. Those are the pieces that secure you to the pole if you fall. As with this climbing device, just like with actually all of the climbing devices, these pieces of equipment have to be adjusted properly for the fall protection to work. The roto snap has to be at the manufacturer recommends the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position for the little steel nub on the other side. Those have to be in place for this fall protection piece to work. If you've ever noticed, like in maybe a rodeo climbing video or something like that, everybody's got them very, very loose because they're really not worried about the fall protection piece. They just want to make it where they're not getting hung up as they climb up the pole. Now with the Buckingham Super Squeeze, very easy to adjust to pole size. You actually just take your hand, you grab the strap, and you can easily pull on the strap to shorten up the length and where the rotor snap is. Very easy to do even while you're climbing. Very easy to do, and also it's very easy to adjust yourself as far as you can adjust your rope to the length or the distance you are away from the pole. Very easy to operate. You just take a little tension off of it. You can pick up on it, get yourself a little bit closer to the pole. Operates very good. The only not real problem that I have with the Super Squeeze is, and I have a Super Squeeze, and the Super Squeeze comes in two different configurations. You can get one with a strap, just like the Jelco Pole Choker, or you can get one with the rope. I have the one with the rope. And it has a tendency, you have to take the tension off of the rope when you're climbing, if that makes any sense. So you have to like shift your hips forward. You got to lean a little bit into the pole and take the tension off of the strap for it to be loose enough where you can actually move the strap up while you're climbing. And to me, it's going to work you. It's so much more physical than just free climbing like we used to do. It's work to lean forward, grab the strap, pull up with your arms. If you time it right and you practice with it enough, it's very simple, but on occasion, it will get hung up. And that's kind of one of the things that I don't really like too much about it. But it's a good device. Like I said, I've climbed more in a Super Squeeze than any other wood pole fall protection device. Now, going around obstacles, the same scenario. You take your secondary lanyard, you put it above the obstacle, then you disconnect your wood pole fall protection device. Here you disconnect the rotor snap, you undo it, you take the strap itself, you can just throw it over your shoulder, step up a couple steps, put it above the obstacle, engage the rotor snap back into the roller, and readjust it to the size of the pole. Then disconnect your secondary lanyard. Very simple operation. That's another thing. You practice these things, man, you get really good at it, very quick at it. So Super Squeeze, solid piece of wood pole fall protection equipment. Now we come to the Bashlin. I'm just going to let you know right off the bat, this piece of equipment really surprised me. The Patriot uses a little bit different system. Instead of a neoprene strap in the back that goes around the pole, it actually uses a kind of a hardened rope. And it's also got handles on it that you can grab with your hands. So the way you adjust for the size of the pole is you slide this rope. It's got a little adjustment in there. You can take the tension off of it and loosen it up. And it slides. You just grab the handle and you just pull the rope out. It's very easy to adjust to the size of the pole. As far as adjusting to the distance you are away from the pole, same thing. Very easy to make adjustments. You just take your hand. You can loosen it up. You can slide back. You can pull yourself up. Pull it forward. It locks off. Very simple to operate as far as being closer to the pole or further from the pole. This piece of equipment, it has to be at the 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock position. Now, if you're going to notice, there's two very sharp studs on each handle, and that is the part that's going to dig into the pole and be your fall protection. So climbing and descending, again, I was very surprised. It's very easy to use this Bashlin Patriot because you have handles. And as you go up, you take these handles and you can actually kind of spread them apart. And since the Patriot has a rope system and it's got beads on these ropes that go up against the pole, and it's also, instead of a strap, it's got the this round hardened rope, it slides up the pole very easily. I was very surprised about how easy this thing was to operate. Man, I got to where I was loving it because you can just spread it open. You got handles, you spread it open, you just slide it up, you take a couple steps up. It's very easy to climb with the Bashlin Patriot. The same thing goes when you go to, you have to go around an obstacle. You take your secondary lanyard above the obstacle, you reach down, you undo the connector key out of the connector body, you take the strap, you throw it over your shoulder, step up a step or two, put the strap back up above the obstacle, you put the connector key back in the connector, readjust, disconnect your secondary lanyard, and you're done. Like I said, I love the Bashlin Patriot. It's a good piece of equipment also. Now quickly, let's talk a little bit about, we talked about cost, of climbers and how expensive all this stuff is. So let's talk quickly about some of the cost of these items. The 4 D-ring body belt is going to run you between $500 and $600 for, a decent leather body belt. The one that I have here it's a Buckingham, nice belt, very comfortable whether you're using your secondary lanyard or your fall protection device. Very easy to work in. It's very comfortable. Jelco Pole Choker 5 is going to be the cheapest out of all of them. And it still runs from $575 to $600. Buckingham Super Squeeze, kind of expensive. They can run anywhere from $700 up to $1,000. Like I said, it can be customized. You can have a strap, you can have rope. Buckingham has a lot of variations of their equipment, so you can pretty much get exactly what you want with the Buckingham Super Squeeze. And the Bashlin Patriot, about $650 for the whole setup. Now, that doesn't include your secondary lanyard, which is going to cost you another $250 for that. So as you can see, it adds up very quickly with climbers, a belt, boots, fall protection device, secondary lanyard. You're getting up there to, almost $2,000 for all this equipment. So it is definitely an investment. So that wraps it up for another episode. Appreciate everybody listening. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to my channel. If you know somebody else who would like it, please share this content with them. Remember, keep safe, and you are your brother's keeper. Aloha.